I gotta talk about this book. Hey, it's Connor with the Chronicler here, and I finished Last Argument of Kings probably about 2 weeks ago now. I've been kind of sitting on it, thinking about it quite a bit, and I was like, I just gotta make a video. The individual video reviews don't do great on the channel. Just kind of in BookTube in general, individual book reviews don't do that well, but it's what I love talking about sometimes, and I thought maybe I'd just keep it more casual and mix it up here. Do a video on my phone, but I got the wireless mic, so audio should hopefully be pretty good here. But let's just kind of launch into this book. So this is the last book in the First Law trilogy, the initial First Law trilogy by Joe Abercrombie. Really liked it a lot. My kind of rating on it was a 4.75 on finishing it, and I thought the first half was pretty good, and then the back half of the book was excellent. I thought it tied together so many of the themes, the characters, the development throughout the whole trilogy, that I think the back half of this book is my favorite part of the whole trilogy. I'm kind of split between if Before They Are Hanged or this is what I like better. I think there's a lot of great character interaction in Before They Are Hanged, and then kind of in the first half of this book, a lot of the characters are split up, kind of the fellowship of sorts is split up. But the back half of this book really made me click in with the vision that Joe Abercrombie has for the First Law, and really the kind of work that he's trying to do here with his books. So what I've gathered from the interviews that I've seen with Joe, and I kind of have watched a fair amount of interviews with him before I even started reading the books in the first place about 2 months ago, is that he wasn't really actively trying to go for this Grimdark thing. He calls himself Lord Grimdark, and it's more of a joke, and it seems like he kind of regrets even having that title as like his Twitter handle or whatever. But the real thing that Joe Abercrombie is trying to do is he's trying to subvert fantasy tropes. And really with the setup here of the trilogy, we had a lot of those tropes. You have Bayaz kind of as that Gandalf character, Logan's that barbarian that wants to change, Jezal's your noble, then you have Pharaoh too. So you kind of have all these trope characters, but the way that they play out through the trilogy, and especially through the end here in the Last Argument of the Kings, is just excellent. And I think I could see, definitely too, why this doesn't click with a lot of people. And we're just gonna go spoilers. This is spoiler talk for this book, because I just need to get into it. A lot of bad things happen, and the way that I kind of felt after hitting the end is that the things that happen to the characters and the things that happen overall maybe aren't what a lot of people would have wanted in a more traditional fantasy story, but they make sense. A lot of these characters have pretty grim endings or unknown endings, or they kind of start back where they began, but the actions they took through the trilogy to where they end up, everything clicks into place. It works so wonderfully. So really the first character that I want to talk about, and probably my favorite character in the First Law trilogy, is Logen Ninefingers, the Bloody Nine. And I just love the character arc, or kind of the lack thereof, that Logan goes on by the end of this first trilogy. So Logan is known as the Bloody Nine because he has this kind of split persona that he turns into the Bloody Nine and just rampages and kills everything around him. As the series goes on, you see more and more of the Bloody Nine and get to understand why Logan is kind of the most feared man in all of the North. And especially here in Book 3, you see the pure savagery and unhingedness of the Bloody Nine and learn more about his relationship with Bethod. In one of the key scenes, Logan becomes the Bloody Nine during a last stand up in the north with Cromartie, and Logan goes Bloody Nine mode and he butchers one of Cromartie's son, just no regard. That's obviously terrible. He murders a kid. And then what he also does is he goes and just murders Tolduru, the Thunderhead. Just no regard. One of his companions, one of his longest friends, just murders him. Almost murders the Dogman too in Adua. There's like a cliffhanger chapter where he's a Bloody Nine. He sees the Dogman and you're like, oh no, did he take out the Dogman? Turns out that Logan did not take out the Dogman, but it was a close call. And it just shows you that when he turns into this Bloody Nine, he is just so... You can't count on anything. He's literally, like he says, I am the Great Leveler, and the Great Leveler being death. That's what they call death kind of in this world. And yeah, he turns into the Great Leveler. There was never any confirmation, but it was set up from early on that Logen can talk to spirits. And kind of one of my self-formed theories is that when Logen turns into the Bloody Nine, it's like the spirit of the Great Leveler possesses Logen, and he has no control over himself. Or it's just kind of he has this psychological issue where he's got this split personality. But let's kind of get more into this. Logen, throughout kind of the whole trilogy, wants to be a better man. That's the whole thing. He wants to put his past behind him. He knows what he's done. He knows what he's capable of. He knows he loses control. He tells everybody this in Before They're Hanged, Book 2, kind of at a camp. He tells Bayaz, Pharaoh, and Jezal that from a young age he stabbed his father and he didn't know what happened. He just has this persona that he turns into. And he doesn't want that anymore. He wants to be a better man. And in Book 2, I think Logen just is such a stud. He's amazing. This is really where Jezal starts connecting with him, and it forms a lot of the ways that Jezal begins to think here in Book 3, and even in Book 2. Logen just changes Jezal so much in his ideology, and he's got some great relationship with Pharaoh kind of there in Book 2. Pretty savage stuff, but pretty funny. And in Book 3, Logan's reflecting on that, and he says, that is how I want to be. That's who I want to be. I actually liked myself during those times when I was trying to be a better leader, trying to really help people out. So at the start of Book 3, what happens is that, like I said, the Fellowship kind of splits up, and Pharaoh and Logen kind of have this weird... They're both very awkward people when it comes to this kind of relationship that they have. And they kind of just leave off, and Logen has no purpose, really. So he says, you know, what have I got to do? I guess I've got some scores in the North to settle. And his purpose devolves back into what it was before. This whole thing with Logen is that he wants to be the better man, but then he keeps returning to this environment that turns him into the Bloody Nine, that turns him into this just savage. And he fails to change. He has this opportunity, and there's a lot of hope in this character for Logen, and that's what's great about the First Law is some people think it's this nihilistic thing with the Grimdark, but it's really not. There is hope for Logen Ninefingers. You've seen him be that better man. You've seen the opportunities he's been handed, but he fails to really make this change. And he fails to make this change. He goes back to the north, and guess what? He becomes a Bloody Nine a couple times up there. Just pure savagery. And then we have this fight, the last stand, with Bethod and Crummocky, and Logen ultimately bests the Feared, who is Bethod's kind of warrior for 1v1s. Then Logen goes to murder Bethod, which is kind of the score that he's been talking about. This is really like his last purpose. He goes to fight Bethod, to murder Bethod, really, and Bethod reveals to the reader that the reason Bethod's whole kingdom has expanded so much is because before the Feared, he was using Logen as his combatant, as his 1v1 guy, and the Bloody Nine was relentless. He just was a psychopath. He had no logic, whatever. He would just murder people. They'd have an agreement, Bethod would be happy, then the Bloody Nine would just go and rampage and say, more and more, I just need more death, death, death. And that would force Bethod to kind of keep pushing and expanding. So it was really all Logen's fault, or the Bloody Nine, if you kind of say there's two distinct characters there really in this one guy. So it's really all the Bloody Nine's fault. And between this and the stuff that happened with the kid and Tolduru, I was really at the point where I'm like, Logen's my favorite character. I love Logen, but Logen has got to die. Like, this dude is just too much of a menace. And then what happens is that Logen becomes King of the North, and people are like, this is going to be even worse than Bethod. It's the fucking Bloody Nine that we've got here, ruling everything now. It was just so well done. And then let's go all the way to the end of the book now, where the end of the book is the way it plays out is essentially how things started in the Blade itself. Logan, now the King of the North, he's done everything, got no purpose. Guess I'll go back up to the North and do whatever up there. Finds out that Black Dow decides that, hey, I'm going to take this kingship for myself. I think I can be a better king than the Bloody Nine. Because he knows that Logan killed Tolduru as the Bloody Nine. He's just too much of a menace to be left to rule. So he tries to take out Logan, and then ultimately Logan's fate is that he jumps out, lands in a river, and is washed away. Basically, like what happens at the very start, like the first chapter of the whole thing. And I think the name of the last chapter, let's see here. I think it literally is, yeah. The last chapter is called The Beginning, which is obviously kind of showing this cyclic nature of Logan's character, where he failed to change, and look where it ended up for him, right back where he started. And it's left kind of open to whether Logan lives or dies. I did kind of look up something that I wish I didn't, so I know kind of more of the fate of this character. But, you know, the inability to change led him right back to where he started. And a lot of the time throughout this series, we've got quotes from Logan. He has some of the most like kind of catchphrases and repeated things where his dad was always telling him to be realistic. And one of the funny things too was that at the end there, that was Logan's problem that his dad said, is that Logan was never very realistic. So he was never very realistic about the fact that he just can't change. So Logan's whole arc is probably my favorite one in the series, but there is some other characters. I'm going to be talking mostly about Logan, which I already did. Then I'm going to touch on Bayaz and Jezal and a little bit on Glockta. So let's talk about Bayaz now. Man, the curtain pullbacks you really get here in book 3 make it extremely clear and paint the whole picture that Bayaz is the villain of the First Law. This guy is just an absolute menace. Power and might is right in Bayaz's mind, and he's just a master manipulator. Like I said in my review of the first book, really that whole first book, the plot is Bayaz organizing people to help him achieve his goals. And we finally get that. He gets the seed here because of Pharaoh in Last Argument of Kings, and he's able to tap into this much more potent level of power. He touches the other side directly. He uses an Eater too. He does some horrible stuff. Some of the other big reveals are that Ptolemy, the Maker's daughter, is alive. She wants to have vengeance on Bayaz, because guess what? Bayaz did throw her off the roof. He is the one that tried to murder her. It wasn't the Maker, it was Bayaz. During one of the kind of things, Pharaoh talks about who cares who killed who 1,000 years ago. And Bayaz says, you know what, Pharaoh, you're exactly right. That's what I agree with. What does it matter? And really the whole attack here on the Union by the South is all Bayaz's fault. You know, there's no other reason. The whole reason is that the prophet, I think it's Kalul, he's also one of the Magi, one of Juven's apprentices. He has more eaters and such, but he is literally attacking the Union to get to Bayaz because he thinks Bayaz killed Juvens. And that's what one of the eaters asks Bayaz, as Bayaz is about to kind of unleash all this power, is he asks him, did you really kill Juvens? And Bayaz uses the same line that Pharaoh does. What does it matter who killed who 1,000 years ago? And in my mind, Bayaz did kill Juvens, probably. Just from everything that we've seen from his character, everything we can put together here, he probably did it. So this whole end of the world scenario for the Union is literally a direct cause of Bayaz's actions. And just needing to be more and more powerful and controlling more and more. And just stealing all these secrets from everybody, manipulating them, and then really getting things his way in the end there. Yeah, I hope this guy dies in the future. I absolutely I think Bayaz is an absolutely amazing villain, such a wonderful subversion of the Gandalf trope. And I want to see more of him. You know, he doesn't die here. He's kind of back in the background, but he's reasserted his power and dominance over the Union, especially kind of acting through Glockta over Jezal. It'll be great to see how things play out here. And another thing that's just been great, he was manipulating things so well all along. Logen finds out that the whole reason that Logan's even alive is because that Bayaz reasoned with Bethod, so that Bayaz could have somebody that would speak with spirits. And then, obviously, in the first book, Bayaz gets a hold of Logen so he can use him later on to try to get the seed. And then, too, with Jezal, Bayaz set up the whole thing and basically was able to place Jezal as king. He views Jezal as this just cowardly weakling that's incapable of anything, that he can just use to control everything. Bayaz is basically the one that's ruling the Union, truly. And then you come to find out, too, that Jezal is not really the son of the king. He's just some random orphan, and that Bayaz had multiple others in line ready to go in case Jezal wasn't really, maybe if he fell through or something. But that's even the whole reason, too, he brought Jezal to the old empire, is just so we could blow up all these fake myths and legends about Jezal doing stuff out there, making him larger than life, putting him kind of in place to be this warrior king, this vision of kind of like Herod the Great, the first one. Just really well done. When you see everything here at the end, everything ties together so well to this character. But yeah, I think in all of fantasy, Bayaz has got to be one of the best villains that I've read, from everything I've read so far. I hate him so much, but I love it. I absolutely love it. And now I want to talk about Jezal, because kind of initially, I feel like for a lot of people, Jezal is one of those characters that you care the least for. He's just this absolutely over-the-top narcissist nobleman. But really, before they are hanged, did so much work in making him a lovable character. I really, really like Jezal. And his interactions with Logen there changed him so much. When he got knocked out, almost like killed, broke his jaw and everything, and Logen kind of helped build that respect for him. And then Jezal really came to view Logen as a brother. Some of the lines there with Logen in book 2 and Jezal, like, you make the most of your family, and your family is what you're given. Just truly amazing prose and some great lines there, very quotable, and they just power through the whole way through the series with the themes and everything. So in book 3, like I kind of mentioned in the Bayaz part, Jezal becomes the king of the Union. There's just some great progress here with, you see all the stuff that Bayaz has done to manipulate this character. And then Jezal becomes king. Unfortunately, with Audie, things don't really work out. Obviously, Glockta marries her later to kind of save his baby, but it was great. And just seeing him become a king that I liked. Obviously, Jezal's still incompetent in a lot of ways, but you see him wanting to actually be a good man and wanting to do good for all these people, and people really look up to him and love this king as he's like down in the camps helping people out after all this disaster that Bayaz caused. I really like this character a lot. And then some of the most emotional stuff in the whole book happened with Jezal. My favorite part of the entire book is the interaction with Logen and Jezal after the fighting's all done, when Logan's kind of lost. He's like, I'm a bad guy. That's just who I am. And then he goes and asks Jezal, am I a good man? And Jezal tells him, Logen, you're the best man that I know. That line, with all the things that have happened to these characters and who they want to be, unable to change, that line was like my favorite part of this whole trilogy. It just connected so much that Jezal, from his experiences with Logen, when Logen viewed himself as a better man, he truly was. He was just a great guy, and he made so much impact on Jezal in such a little time that it changed this guy so much and led him to actually be a pretty good king in a lot of ways in my eyes. And then we got to talk about the scene with Jezal wanting to use his powers as king. He starts to recognize, I'm king. I can have say in things. This isn't going to be like the old king where all the close council just can totally control everything. Jezal wants a say. He wants things to happen in his view. One thing he does get is he gets West instated as a Lord Marshal. Unfortunately, West kind of dies. It's very, heavily implied there. He gets super sick. West is another great character. So Jezal kind of tries to make things go his way. And Bayaz is like, let me remind you of who I am and who you are. You are an ant beneath my foot. You are nothing. He lays it all out, who Jezal, like his true lineages is nothing. I set you up. You are one of just my manipulations. He makes Jezal just crumble before him. And that's just one of those scenes that makes you go, damn, Bayaz is just such a piece of shit. And then another thing was that, let's kind of go to Glockta now. Like I said, love Jezal, great character. Let's go to Glockta now. Kind of tying back into Bayaz. Bayaz has Glockta. He likes how Glockta operates. Glockta's he's just ruthless. So he kind of picks Glockta to be really the real king of the Union, because Jezal's got to basically listen to everything that Glockta says. Glockta's the new head of the King's Inquisition, and he's basically the one that's going to be calling the shots. If there's no direct kind of direction from Bayaz, what Glockta says goes, and Glockta will be the one that's in touch with Bayaz to receive direction and kind of relay it to everybody else. Glockta does some messed up stuff in this book, and he is just such a dark guy. We kind of find out a lot of the series, Glockta's purpose is, why do I do this? He's hunting for purpose, and really what he ends up kind of finding the purpose is that I just don't want to lose. That's kind of the whole thing with Glockta. I just don't want to lose. And that makes him ruthless. And that's, Bayaz knows that, and he appreciates that. That's how he views things too. Might makes right. You got to do whatever you need to do. Like one of the lines that Bayaz drops is about war. There are no rules in war. The loser is like the only one. You just don't be the loser. That's the only thing. And Glockta has a very similar vision on things. I think Bayaz is definitely more ruthless than Glockta, because even Glockta, when he's talking to Jezal, and some things that Jezal wants to get done, Glockta agrees with some of the things that Jezal wants to have happen, but he's like, hey, we gotta really follow Bayaz for a while, and then maybe once Bayaz is more content and steps further back, we can take some actions of our own, do some of those things that you want to do, with some changes from my direction, but we can make some of the things happen that you want to, and that kind of helps reassure Jezal. So the darkest scene for me with Glockta in the entire book was when he finds out that Jezal and his wife, I think it's Therese, they aren't really having any luck there as far as getting along or producing offspring for the Empire, or the Union rather. And Glockta knows, hey, we've got to have kids. We can't make it look like there's anything publicly wrong between the two of them. And they need offspring so the Union can feel secure that if somehow Jezal passes away, that there's an heir to take the throne. And obviously, if you've read the book, which I hope you have, Therese really, really despises Jezal because of his heritage. She knows kind of that he's just the nobody. And you also find out that she's actually probably lesbian. Her friend with her, they have a very close relationship, and Glockta sees this. So Glockta gets sent to kind of resolve this Therese-Jezal situation. And what he does is so messed up. He basically takes her lover, Therese's lover, and he's like, you don't know what's gonna happen here. I will torture her to death if you don't go and make some freaking kids with Jezal. You've got to put on a good performance. So that's like the darkest thing, honestly, I think that Glockta does. It was so messed up on how everything played out there, but you can see his view. This has to happen for the Union to be stable and to have strength. So he's got that Bayaz view where hey, I've got to make some bad things happen to make sure that everything overall works out. And then one scene that one of the most tension-filled scenes in the book was with Glockta and Artie, where you find out that Artie's got Jezal's baby, and you can't really have bastards like that being in the kingdom right now. So Glockta gets dispatched, and you are pretty concerned that he's going to kill Artie. But what actually ends up happening is that he proposes to her and they get married. So I think in a lot of ways, Glockta has like the happiest ending out of all these characters. Gets married, is going to have a kid. That's not really his kid, but he ends up with in the position of power, really, in the Union. So that's really the main stuff I wanted to talk about with characters. Just so many great themes here, so many great arcs, and good reasons some characters fail to change or do change. And then I do want to talk kind of about something I really appreciate with Last Argument of Kings, is that Joe takes his time with the aftermath of the big battle. I hate it when books have that big blowout climax moment, and it's like, oh, the story's done, everything's just end it there. Unfortunately, one of the books I had a big problem with this in is the Fury of the Gods, the third book of the Bloodsworn saga. That book kind of had the big blowout battle. That book had too much action, frankly, for me. But the big kind of blowout battle happened, and then there was like one chapter where like things get resolved in the end, and like you kind of see what happens with the characters. I'm like, no, I love it when there's a lot of stuff afterwards. And here you get the big stuff with Bayaz. That kind of climax moment happens with Bayaz. They're fighting the Eaters and kind of pulling the curtain back on who the true villain is. And then we get a lot of time to see the aftermath of these characters and setting up what they might do next, and tying a lot of the last little threads back together. I love how much time Joe took with that, because I'm here for the characters, really, a lot of the time. And the way that all these characters got wrapped up in the end was just so well done and excellently handled. Yeah, so 4.75 on this. Honestly, could go up to a 5. This year, I haven't rated any book 5-star. I've had like 3 or 4 books right on the verge of 5-star. This book is sticking with me. Initially, I was like, maybe I like Before They Are Hanged more than this. But like I said, the first half of this, pretty solid. The back half is like, back half of this book is 5-star, no doubt. And I think just with the way everything ties up with the whole trilogy, that this might be a 5-star book right here, and an absolute must-read for any fantasy fan. And that's about it. I hope you guys like this video of me just taking it really casually, just kind of having a more organic conversation. That's what I wanted on this channel, just kind of some more organic conversations about books. I will do some heavily edited stuff, and I am planning on kind of doing a First Law video where I really lay out why you should read the First Law, lay out the characters. So that'll be coming down the line. If you like this video, definitely check out some of the other stuff I got on the channel, other fantasy and sci-fi book reviews, and kind of just general discussions. So if you liked it, leave a thumbs up, and I really want to know what you guys hear in the comments below about The Last Argument of Kings, because I think this book is just wonderful. So many great ideas, themes, characters. So let me know in the comments below. Other than that, have a good one and take it easy.